Audience, please give our cast a huge round of applause.
Do you think they're gonna get married? Do you think we're like gonna get married? And it was like, I think that we're on a TV show.
I'm just gonna direct this to the public. I love who I am. I love my name. I represent, and that needs to be said.
Yes, yes. The journey that you took last year has now been on Netflix for everyone to see. Anything you want to say?
So,
one of my all-time favorite human beings, Gabor Mate, once said that if you weren't loved for who you are, you're gonna work very hard to be liked. And for me, the biggest takeaway from this reunion is how hard everybody up on the stage was working to get the audience approval and reaction, to get the audience on their side. And because of the time that we live in, shows like Love is Blind, their storylines don't end when the show ends. They live on in social media.
I know that this is not easy, and especially that fourth wall of social media.
Yeah, watching this reunion and also the hype leading up to it, and also because of the live thing didn't work well, so everybody was just refreshing the page. Even I, when I was sick, I was like, oh my God, when is it gonna be on? Yeah, that whole hype really encapsulated not only how obsessed these people on the show are with us, the audience, and what we think of them, but it's also how affected they are by our reaction.
I felt like she didn't deserve to have that symbol of my love.
Now, it's easy to gang up on someone like Irina the way Zach did and accuse her of being the only one who's obsessed with fame and her image.
If we're real, you went on this show to get famous.
But if we're gonna be real, who from the people up there doesn't care about their image and what people think of them? It's very hard to separate how much for love are you doing this and how much for fame. Because if you put yourself on TV, you put your personal life up there, you also want a little bit of fame, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, just 2 seconds later, after Zach was accusing Irina of being there for the wrong reasons, he literally was like, the only receipts I have are up on my Instagram, where he was promoting the post where he talked about his mother's mental health history, which is fine. I mean, if you want to share that, it was a very touching story. But if you're putting your personal life out there, you're also wanting validation. You want to be seen. You want to have someone witness your life. All of them, not just Zach, they're all milking this appearance on the show for all it's worth. Like you have Jackie, she's actually offering subscriptions on her Instagram. And the problem is that fame has this kind of negative connotation that if you seek fame, that there's something wrong with you. But actually, if you scratch the surface at fame-seeking behavior, you actually realize that it's validation-seeking. It's love-seeking, basically. It's saying, accept me for who I am. And I titled this video Approval Addiction because what is approval addiction? Approval addiction is the intense desire to win the approval of others and avoid feeling rejected at all costs. And who of us hasn't felt that desire for approval? I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience because it took me forever to make this video, right? And I'm sorry, guys, but it was making me so sick. On top of being physically sick, the idea that I couldn't give people what they wanted from me, oh my God, I thought, shit, are people unsubscribe? Are they gonna be bored of me? They're gonna hate me. Carl, and what is that if not approval seeking? And because today's video is themed after fame and approval seeking, we have a very special guest, the fame monster herself, Madonna. I'm a gay man of a certain age, so I grew up with Madonna, right? And for me, she's the ultimate symbol of love me, love me, love me, and don't you dare stop loving me. I mean, I love her, I always will still love her, but I find her behavior and her need to hang on and cling to the old fame is just almost unbearable to watch. But from that perspective, she has a lot to offer to these people on Love is Blind. So there you go.
It amazes me that we care so much about what people think or winning people's favor. I hate myself for this pettiness. Human behavior, learned behavior, old behavior, unconscious behavior. I want so badly to be released from the bondage of giving a fuck.
Hey you guys, it's me in denial. I'm back. Girl, can you believe it? I was out for 2 weeks. Let me tell you, being sick is a very humbling experience because I was riding high on this wave of my shows are selling out, my videos are popping, nothing can stop me, and in walks in this cold. And it's like, sit your ass down, bitch. And before we get into this video, I want to quickly plug my show in Hollywood, my 3 shows in Hollywood in June. I've linked below all the info about the event. The tickets won't actually be up for sale until May 1st, but it will be the same link. So just check it in a few days. And maybe you're already watching this on May 1st. But I hope to see you in Los Angeles at the end of June, girl. Yeah, you guys, I was so annoyed for not having been able to make the video. I was like, when the fuck is this cold gonna go away? Like every morning I would be like, okay, that's it. It's done. And I wake up and it's still there. I was so, I was channeling the spirit of Brett.
This should not happen.
Yeah, and speaking of that reaction that Brett had to the pants not fitting.
This is avoidable. I could have did this myself.
My God. And even after that lady fixed them, he was like, you're infinitely better. Infinitely. What is this? This isn't a theater production of Hamlet, girl. Just talk like a normal person. Just say, I like the pants now.
Infinitely better.
Infinitely better. You can totally see what kind of boss he is at Nike. I am the creative director, and this does not answer my brief. Maybe Tiffany was right about you all along.
Bougie Brett.
Nah, it's fine. I mean, I know the internet loves Tiffany and Brett, and it's fine. They're not toxic. There's nothing wrong with them. But Lauren and Cameron, you are not. They're just, you know what it is? Like, they're very, both of them, especially like Tiffany as well. Like, she's always like, they're so earnest. Like, their reactions are never like self-deprecating. There isn't humor. It's just they're very, even at the altar, you're the apple of my eye and the banana and the sky. And like, girl, like, just, they're fine. I love them. I wish them luck in all future endeavors, which I'm sure will be infinitely better. Bye, girl. Now let's get to the subject of hand, the approval seeking and the approval addiction.
His mom welcomed me with open arms, and
That not was only on full display at the reunion, but after, at all the post-reunion interviews that they were doing. Because I watched pretty much everything. And these people's lives and their need for attention just is nonstop. Like when Paul was speaking to TMZ about Micah and what happened later, that they were dating, and then she dumped him and flew to Europe with some guy.
I went and visited her, and then pretty much after I came back to Seattle, she broke it off just like that. I was just like, okay. Immediately fucks off to Europe with some random person.
And then Micah's shading him in her Instagram stories. And then her friend, the one he supposedly, brushed his hand against her tush. She's also posting about it on Instagram. It's like all of them. The people on the show and their friends and everybody is just there to kind of sell you an image. So the way today's video is gonna work is breaking down this approval addiction into 7 signs and then using the different people on the show to illustrate those signs. And the first sign is obsession with image. And I really wanna use Paul to talk about that. And that broken heart t-shirt. He already came in for a show. So, she broke my heart. Paul, I'm not falling for this, I'm a scientist. I just use data. Girl, you're here to play the game. Because a lot is said about Micah, and rightly so, about her narcissism and her her image being the most important thing. But Paul is not off the hook. He says some really emotionally loaded stuff. When he started attacking her as a mother or her nurturing abilities,
I struggled with, at least in terms of envisioning Micah as a mother.
I mean, you have the right to do that, but don't act like I'm only talking about data. No, girl. Yeah, so that attack about Micah not being fit for motherhood started at the wedding, but continued at the reunion, where at first he started backpedaling by saying, oh, I misspoke. What I meant is I couldn't see us as parents.
The better way to phrase that would have been, I can't see us as parents, because I couldn't envision myself, as she pointed out just now, couldn't envision myself as a father.
But then he just turns it around and he starts attacking Micah again. He's like, oh, I just didn't see it. I couldn't see it in her. And he's speaking in this kind of very, almost cold, robotic, he's not saying anything negative, but he's just drilling into it.
She didn't feel comfortable with showing that side of her.
But I thought she said she did. She just talked about it.
You can say, whatever you want.
You wanted actions.
I just wanted to be able to see it, I guess.
So you didn't see enough of a nurturing presence in Micah? Is that what you're saying? You didn't see that?
And he continued this manipulative, image-obsessed, attitude even after the reunion. At one of the post-reunion interviews, they were telling him oh, are you satisfied with what you've told Vanessa, the host, when she was pushing him basically about what he said about Micah, and he's like, yeah, I gave my full rationale.
I think I said my piece, and I think Vanessa might have had a little bit of personal bias in that scenario. She continually said, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you ask this of her? That gets into the philosophical nature of relationships, and like, is that right to demand your person to change in order to fit you?
Actually, no. Vanessa's line of questioning doesn't get into the philosophical question of whether you can ask people to change or not. It was about the fact that you see Micah as someone who needs to change. Like, who are you to decide that? Plus, Vanessa's brain is not capable of philosophical questions, honey. So, calm down.
Seriously, if that doesn't make your ovaries burn, I don't know.
Yeah, for real.
Y'all, I want a number 4 so bad.
Ew, Vanessa, gross. Like someone else with like maybe more wit or humor or kind of like a different way of delivery could have made that line kind of cute, like, oh, my ovaries are burning. But the way she says it, she actually means it. And at one point she was like, hi kids at home. Ew. Also, did you guys hear that they were gonna get fired?
You're fired.
Anyway, back to that first sign of approval addiction, the obsession with image, and which all the people up on the stage are actually guilty of that. And don't you worry, we're gonna get to you, Chelsea and Kwame.
So glad you asked.
Hold on, Chelsea. Hold on. I first need to get through Micah. Yeah, Micah is a very interesting one because she is so good at crafting an image for herself. Like when Vanessa brought up the fact that Paul was telling her about, that she's not a good mother.
Sorry.
First of all, very convincing. Chin quiver, the whole, it's very subtle acting, but girl, where are the tears? Where are the tears, honey? Versus Irina, who, when she was first brought up on the stage, she's like, hold up. She's like literally holding back the laughter. Like she can't even pull it off.
Sorry, just need a minute.
And the worst part is when the audience started laughing at her crying. Cringe! But all these attempts at manipulating image, they're just attempts at hiding what you think is unlovable about you. But when we're busy crafting an image of ourselves by hiding who we really are, little do we know that actually if somebody doesn't know us, then it's impossible for them to love us. And that's really true for all of us because whether you're a celebrity on a show like Love is Blind or just a regular person, if you're preventing people from knowing who you are by putting up a facade or performing, you're not seeking love, you're seeking just approval, which is like a dopamine hit in the moment, but it doesn't last. And the saddest thing about that whole thing is that the pain of not being yourself is so huge. Even if you manage to push it down for a while, like Kwame does, which we'll get to him in a minute. But let's get back to Micah and her obsession with crafting this image of herself. I think that happens because you're so afraid of showing who you are. You're so afraid of being vulnerable. So you'll do anything just to keep up this facade. And with Micah and even Paul, it already started in the pods when the way they proposed to each other, and they literally did it to each other because it was almost like they were negotiating a deal by telling each other that she told him like if he leaves Amber and if she leaves Kwame, then maybe we can now go for each other. It was almost like they're negotiating and removing any risk of being embarrassed. It's about just making sure that the image is intact.
If I felt like you wanted to move forward like just us, then I would have said that I wanted to do the same.
Do you think if we agreed to just go for each other, maybe you wouldn't feel risky to me anymore?
I think so.
Let's do it then.
And that caution about not being rejected publicly and not being embarrassed publicly continued well into the altar.
Do you, Micah, promise to love Paul without restrictions and without hesitation?
In this moment, the best thing that I can do for us is to give you the opportunity to answer first.
It's fake because of the quick switch that she had. At the altar when she was like, oh, I've never felt love or seen as I do with you. And then literally 5 minutes later, less than 5 minutes later, when he told her we're better apart, she's like, oh, I never felt safe with you.
You made me feel like the parts of me that I thought were unlovable were good. I never felt safe. And I think that this moment just kind of shows that that's validated.
I want it to be known that
Yeah, and you know it's all about image when you see the way she talks about the traumatic things that happened on the show. Even when she was promoting it on that Nick Vile podcast, when she talked about the moment when Paul grabbed the tush of her friend, or when he called her like she's unfit for mothering. She speaks about those things in a very cool, calm, collected way and even laughs.
Oh, also, what did you think about the "I don't see you as a mother" comment?
Oh my God, it honestly sent me into oblivion.
She's talking about being hurt, but it's not, I'm not buying it. I'm not renting it. I'm not even window shopping for it, girl. Yeah, when on the reunion, she was talking about how hurt she was by Paul calling her unfit for mothering, and she's like... And now she's doing Q&A Sundays on her Instagram story, and she's talking about how she's best friends with Paul's mother, and it's fine because Paul, loves it for us. He likes that we're friends. Like, just the lack of authenticity and just the fakeness, it's too much, y'all. It's too much. Yeah, they're all hyper aware of their image. It's almost like they're their own publicist, and I'm sure a lot of them are working with publicists. It's like, it's really hard to figure out how much of this is real and how much isn't.
Yeah.
What conversations, if any, did you guys have, or did you hear any other cast members talk about, the opportunities that this show can bring them?
I feel like everyone is so afraid of being canceled. No one ever talked about anything. Like everyone was just like so tight-lipped about everything, all nervous about what was going to come out.
And that happens on a lot of reality shows. Like there's a show, RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't know if you guys see that one, but as the years went on, as the more popular it became very apparent that the people on the show are unable to separate what they think people will react to them on social media. It's almost like they come in already crafting an image, handing that image over to producers. Yeah, speaking like publicists. And I don't know, like nowadays you can't probably avoid that anymore. And the second sign of approval addiction is your opinions changing depending on the company that you're keeping. Like whenever Micah's with someone, like she becomes different. Like she's still to this point defending Shelby.
Relieved, honestly. That's how I wanted it to go.
I think she has a terrible delivery, but she never wanted me to get hurt.
Till this day, she's still defending Shelby for having bad delivery. I don't think delivery is the problem with Shelby, girl. By the way, speaking of Shelby, did you clock that moment in the episode 12, the altar, when they were preparing, when Micah was getting ready? She was talking about, how she changed Paul and how he changed her. And she's saying that, I helped him with his style because he doesn't have any style, ha ha ha. And then Shelby's like, don't get us started on that.
He feels the same, and like I elevate him, I elevate like his style.
Please don't get us started on that.
Honey, you are the last person to be giving style tips or talking about fashion. That hideous little satin number that you wore circa 2002, gross. You're gross, girl. And that moment where she was getting drunk, when she was telling Micah, I don't approve, I need more, give me more.
I just think that I need more. I need more.
He's not auditioning for you. You need more, you need more. And then she got drunk and she was telling Micah, like, this is it. You're amazing. You're spectacular. You deserve everything. And what? What are you saying, girl? Go make yourself a cappuccino and wake the fuck up.
Like, you're meant to have the most spectacular everything. You're Micah. I think you deserve that.
When people start confessing love when they're completely blacked out, it's like, stay away, girl. It's one thing to be, to know that you already love someone, and then when you're tipsy, you get more, loving and in your how you express it. But to act one way and then suddenly to become loving and caring when you're inebriated, it's just gross to me. Like, ugh. And also, Shelby, honey, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're a lesbian. Did you see the way she ran her fingers through Micah's hair? This isn't it. I can't. And why are you crying?
Letting of your life, you're meant to have all of those, and this isn't it. This isn't it. Snap out of it.
Yeah, but Micah's very weird how she keeps coming to the defense of her friend Shelby. But I have a theory. It's like Micah's this ringleader where she's intelligent enough to know how to act cool or speak the way people want to speak, but her core, who she really is exactly like Shelby and Irina. That's why she enjoys the company of these girls. But speaking of Irina, a third sign of approval addiction is putting others down, especially those who are liked. And you really saw it when they played that montage of how much of bullies Micah and Irina were to the girls in the women's quarters. Ooh. You know, I have to give them credit for sitting through that and watching it, because it must be a nightmare to watch yourself behave this way for the world to see. It was like, well, either you give them credit or they're complete narcissists who lack empathy, because some people have theories that, you know, as a narcissist, they don't care. They just want to be seen. I don't know. Either way, I do like what Zach said about that.
Everybody who made a mistake on this show, it has been punishment enough for the entire world to see them at their worst.
And Madonna as well has something to say about that, about, you know, having to watch yourself behave in an embarrassing way.
I've also started to observe my own personality and behavioral patterns in ways I never saw before. I'm horrified, and then I take a moment and decide to have more compassion for myself.
And another sign of approval addiction is playing the victim even when things aren't bad.
I do want to say that moment with the pillow over my face, watching it back, I was like, absolute jerk move of me. I was literally having a panic attack.
You know, it takes two people for a relationship to work. Is this something you want?
Are you seriously going to pretend you were having a panic attack? Have you ever had a panic attack? When you have a panic attack, it takes you at least 15 minutes to recover. You feel like a truck drove over you. You don't just pop out of the pillow, ha ha ha. Like, what the fuck, girl? Also, I love how Bliss called her out.
I don't know. I think you can have panic attacks and you can have trouble with, you know, mental illness and all of that, and that's totally valid. But then you're turning around and you're doing malicious things and you're like acting in really cruel ways. It's hard to reconcile those two things.
Because, by the way, Irina did something extremely shady when she sent that DM after they left Mexico. She sent the DM to Bliss saying, "Oh, you dodged a bullet," about Zach. And then at the same time, she's sending a message to Zach saying, "Oh, you should go for Bliss." Like, that is some next level manipulation, girl. But I love how Bliss shut it down. Unlike Zach, who was, by the way, feeling himself a little too much at that reunion. I mean, I still love Zach. I always will. Have a soft spot for this guy. But like, he was like going around on the moral high horse, just lecturing everyone. It was a bit like, By the way, something that wasn't highlighted on the show entirely, and especially the reunion, is the similarities between Zach and Irina, specifically the chaos in their upbringing.
Like, I can remember being a kid, going through the drive-thru and my mom not having enough money to buy me a meal. And
I moved here from Russia when I was yeah. It was like 3 or 4. Like, there were so many Christmases where there was nothing under the tree, and it was such a normal thing.
Yeah, Zach told us in that Instagram post, if you want to read it in full, check out his Instagram page, but it's really heartbreaking what his mother went through, and being homeless and not being able to see him and embarrassed to show her children the state that she's in. Like, that stuff is heartbreaking. And perhaps it's a good moment as any to get into the psychology of approval addiction. You know, as kids, all of us, we have two needs: the need for attachment and the need for authenticity. Attachment is basically the need to be close to someone and to be taken care of. And authenticity is not the I need to be authentic and queer and LGBT. That's not the only way of being authentic. Authentic is just listening to your gut feeling. Feeling your feelings. That's what being authentic is. Our gut is what's given to us by nature to protect ourselves. And the only way to be emotionally healthy is if you feel your feelings, even the negative ones. So if you grow up in an environment where feeling your feelings, where being authentic is going to risk the attachment or the connection with the caretaker, of course you're going to drop the authenticity and lose that in order to be attached to someone. And that's how you learn how to be inauthentic. And after that happens, you grow up with the feeling of not being loved for who you are. You get used to it. So you start doing everything in order to be liked.
This becoming a human thing is a very complicated affair. We do not get born with a user's manual, nor do our parents. Poor things.
Essentially, you're constantly begging for reassurance because genuine love for your authentic self is just out of the question. So you're just begging for people to reassure you, which brings us to the fifth sign of approval addiction, which is the constant need for reassurance. And there is no better example of that than Chelsea and Kwame.
We were strong, but if anything, this whole thing made us even stronger.
Hey, now. All right.
Both of them are so good at convincing, well, I don't know how good they are, but they think they're good at convincing themselves and us that they really care for each other. I mean, maybe they do care for each other, especially Chelsea, but I think what they're trying to convince us of is that their love is real.
they all need to know how much I care and love for my wife, you know? My wife, you know?
And you really see that during that clip they played at the reunion, the never before seen footage of when Chelsea and Micah in Seattle like got together after returning from Mexico. That clip was so fake. I think they filmed it probably like 2 weeks ago. Because they were like, oh, we just got back from Mexico. Oh, we haven't seen each other since Mexico. What?
We just got back and
Yeah.
there's a lot going on now.
Yeah, we haven't really seen each other since Mexico. And
But you told me in the pods you were breaking up with him. And from what he told me, he was breaking up with you.
I have a breakup note still in my notebook.
So you did. So that wasn't a lie. You did.
It wasn't a lie.
You never got to it.
Yeah, I never got to.
Let's rewind for a minute, shall we? Because that breakdown that Kwame had in the men's quarters after Micah dumped him.
I'm just having a tough time.
It seemed like it was a fairly emotional reaction on your part. If you knew that you were kind of heading in separate directions, why were you so emotionally moved at that moment?
Just felt like it was like snip, bye-bye. And
Yes.
that's what hurt about it.
Yeah.
That's all.
And I
Thank
will say
you
something
for
that you guys
clarifying.
also didn't see was
You didn't break up with her. Even now at the reunion, he still can't even look up at her. Because she's sitting across from them, he can't even make eye contact with her. And he's just lost in thought. His eyes are wandering like, No, honey. Yeah, for me, Kwame is the epitome of someone who abandoned himself, abandoned his gut feeling, like just pushed his authentic self so far down that he doesn't even know who he is. And you know, I've always made a big deal about that kind of like fake laugh of his, which I can't do now because, girl, it will kill my lungs. But there's actually something weirder than that fake laugh that he did. It's that disassociative smile that he did after the wedding. It's like, you know that smile that paranoid schizophrenics on the road have? They're like, okay, I'm gonna check out because, you know, I'm done. I'm just gonna let my body be here. I'm gonna travel somewhere else in my mind. Like, you know, people in war zones do it, or kids who are undergoing things that shouldn't be happening to them, but they feel like they have no choice but to stay, so they check out in their head. Like, he's doing one of these smiles.
you were my husband.
Yes,
I am.
your wife.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, you know what it is.
Husband.
But you know that self you abandon is always there. You can pretend, you can ignore your authentic needs and feelings, but deep down inside, you always know. And that really stood out for me at a moment where at Micah's wedding, like before, leading up to the wedding, she, just like Paul, was also nervous. Like, is this the right thing? Am I going to do it? I don't know. She was telling her mother, it's like, I don't know. And if I know, and she's like, oh, you do know.
part of me, like the romantic in me, is like, it should be like when you know, you know?
But you do know.
Because indeed, deep down inside, you always know what needs to be done and how to take care of yourself. But, you know, this listening to our gut sometimes sounds like such an abstract concept, especially if you're so used to being inauthentic that you don't even know what it's like. But if you're going to really break it down to something practical, listening to your gut is actually listening to your body, because your body really knows. And I can recommend a couple of books that have really helped me. There's a book by Alice Miller called The Body Never Lies, and another one by Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score. Because that's actual self-care. That's how you practice self-care, by repeatedly listening to your body, what your body is telling you. Because sometimes in the company of certain people, you get a migraine. You're like, let me just take a painkiller. But your body is trying to communicate something to you. Now back to the signs of approval addiction. The sixth sign is the need to control everything with an iron fist. Like everything needs to be in your control. And for me, hearing that, I immediately think of Chelsea. Because at some point in the reunion, she said something so disturbing. She's like, every conversation that Kwame had with Micah was pushing a narrative that wasn't ours.
Every single conversation that Kwame had after Mexico with Micah was pushing a narrative that wasn't ours.
Just because something doesn't fit the narrative in your head doesn't make it not reality. The fact is, he was having those conversations with Micah. Whether it's pushing a narrative you don't like is not the issue here. This isn't a PR agency where we're crafting narratives. This is real life. He's having conversations with Micah. That's a fact that you have to deal with. Not, I don't like these conversations because they don't fit the narrative. Girl! You know, I was really on board with Chelsea as the season began, but then as it developed, wow. This is like the self-sabotage, the denial, it's like really... to a level of art, she takes it. And back to her need to control everything. Like the way she always speaks on both of their behalf. Like, we loved it. Like when they were asking her about that weird photo shoot. Yeah, we loved it.
We loved it. We loved it. I mean, it was really a dream come true for me.
Or when Nick told them, basically he's telling Kwame, like, what about the shocking yes that you said at the proposal? Everybody online basically was shocked. Everyone expected him to say no. So what about that? She jumps in something I have to read to you, girl, because it has to be read word for word. So again, just for context, this is her answer to Nick saying, what do you think of people being shocked that Kwame said I do? I feel that women feel the need to explain, to say they're sorry, to defend, and women need to feel empowered to make decisions that are best for themselves. Period.
I feel that women feel the need to explain, to say they're sorry, to defend, and women need to feel empowered to make decisions that are best for themselves, period. Period.
What the fuck does that have to do with anything, girl?
And that is what I did for me, and that is what I did for us.
Are you on meth? What's happening, girl? And then what made it so awkward is how like Vanessa's always coming to their defense by telling us, the audience, and the studio audience and us, he's not trapped, you guys. He's not trapped. It's like, if you have to say it.
Alex, Kwame is a grown-ass man. And if he wants the woman, he's going to get her too. He's not trapped.
We'll get to some more about Vanessa's awkwardness in a minute when I talk about Marshall, but let me finish the Chelsea segment. Another one about Chelsea wanting to control everything through, at some point, like, what seemed like blatant lies. Like when she talks about having met his family at a Thanksgiving dinner.
I really bonded with his nieces, and we went around a circle to say what we were thankful for, and his youngest niece said that she was most thankful for her Auntie Chelsea.
Are we really going to believe that you have no pictures of this Thanksgiving dinner? You, the woman who's dreamed about having a photo shoot in underwear with your fiance, documenting everything, trying to show your man to everyone. You didn't take any pictures at the Thanksgiving dinner where you were welcomed by his mom with open arms and the little niece. And what nieces? Children take time to warm up. They never like, oh, you're my favorite, like from the first meeting. No. Children also don't talk about being grateful for another person. Like, that's not how it works. Versus the very sweet way Bliss talked about how Zach and her father are now finally getting along. Because it sounds real. She honors the fact that her father, yes, indeed, was against Zach because my father is protecting me. He's looking out for me. But now they're like best buds and talking. It just sounds real.
My dad, he will always show up for me. He will always be there for me. And I'm happy to say that he and Zach are best buds. They can't stop talking to each other when we're at dinner or whatever. It's so cute.
By the way, I loved the scene at the altar before Bliss walked out to meet Zach. How she was like flanked by both her parents. You literally have the two kinds of love on either side. You have her mom's like, I love you, that teddy bear lady. And then you have her dad, who is, I don't know, a lot of people were like annoyed by him, but I just loved it. I don't know if it's because I'm missing my own dad, but I just loved seeing, that part actually made me emotional. Just because nowhere in the history of Love is Blind did you get both parents, walking the person down the aisle. And they were divorced. It's like they're both showing up for her in their very different ways. I loved it.
Things will be great no matter what.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, thanks,
Right.
Dad. I love you. Love you too.
Yeah. Never settle. All right?
And how her father then turned around and got so excited after the I do's. He was clapping like a pit bull.
I do.
Bliss's dad is like, those stories on that YouTube channel Dodo where they cover the journey of animals? Like first you capture a traumatized dog and then they change because of love. That for me is like Bliss's dad. He's like, ah, so cute. I love their whole family. Now let's talk about the seventh and final sign of approval addiction. And it's this, you do insane things just to be accepted. You work so hard. And for me, that is Marshall. Just that despair. Marshall has this energy of, again, speaking of dogs, you know how dogs are always running after you, but take away the cuteness and everything that's adorable about dogs, just this, that's Marshall. It's like, read the room, girl.
I think what we all have to realize is that that's just the normal ebb and flow of a relationship.
This woman is not into you. And at the reunion, it was so absurd, like how he's still saying, oh, I don't know what I would have said if I went up to the altar. Really?
So you would have made it all the way to the altar?
Absolutely. I think that making it to the altar is the precipice of this entire experiment, and that was taken from me. And I don't know what I would have said.
And what's upsetting to him is that he was slighted. that he didn't get a chance to go to have the altar moment. Really, this proves a point that they're all living in some kind of a movie just for image. Like, the altar moment was taken from me. Yeah, but you were with a woman who was abusing you. So why would you want to go to the altar with her? So she can humiliate you even more? The focus is completely on the wrong things. And also, if you saw him on that podcast with Nick Vile, when Nick was asking him about, what was it about Jackie that made you fall in love? He can't even articulate it. He doesn't even know what it is. And then he's just so easy to kind of like sway. And then Nick was like, can you do an impression of Jackie? Like, the dignified thing would be like, no, I will not be doing an impression. And he does a very terrible impression. Like, he doesn't even know why he loves her.
I gravitated towards Jackie because it was easy.
Easy how?
The moment that we stepped in there, she made me very comfortable. She would come in and introduce herself in a very unique way.
Can you give us an example? Can you do a Jackie impression?
Yeah, this is Jackie B from the 253. Okay. That was her thing.
And that moment at the reunion after Vanessa played that montage about Jackie and Josh, when she turns to Marshall and she's like, oh, a lot of eyebrow action. He's like, yeah, a lot of eyebrow action. Yeah, what's up? What's up? Come on. So awkward. And then he does nothing. Just sits down again like a puppy, minus the cuteness.
What's up?
Hey. Oh, I got some eyebrow action.
A lot of eyebrow action. What's up? What's happening?
What do you want to say after watching that video?
Well, first of all, a lot happened in that video.
Yeah, Marshall is the embodiment of someone who's completely out of touch with his true feelings. Like, he seriously doesn't know who he is or what he wants. Like, also again on that Nick Vile episode where Nick asked him about the previous relationship he had before Jackie. He's like trying to get to the root of what went wrong, what did you learn from it? He can't articulate anything.
We just decided to call it off. It was a very amicable split.
Okay.
And it was just not the right time.
How'd you realize that?
Well, a lot of factors, actually. I can partially blame the pandemic, but also we just realized that we were better off as friends.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How did you deal with that disappointment? What was that like?
Actually, I wouldn't call it disappointment.
You weren't disappointed at all?
No.
Yeah, Marshall is someone who is in so much pain from not being himself, but he still continues to hide it under this kind of performative, smile, nice guy. But you know what? Madonna has a couple of words about that to Marshall, about her pain being on display for people.
We can't always have a good day. In fact, it's past midnight, so we can technically kiss today goodbye. The pain-o-meter was on 10. And when it's on 10, I just need to, want to, have to get out of my body. And I can concentrate on nothing except the idea of escape. And I wonder what form that will take.
And Marshall does indeed need to escape. Because anybody would want to escape this hell of like not being true to yourself. And the way Marshall does it is through this kind of nice persona, this Will Smith persona that he puts on. And you really see it when he tried to, at the reunion, say that he forgives Jackie and Josh.
The whole you versus me thing needs to die. Immediately.
But then 2 seconds later, his true feelings come out when he talks about the truce.
Let's just, I don't know, call it truce? But, I mean, I've offered that before.
And not only was he taking the abuse from Jackie, he was taking abuse from Vanessa at the reunion, who was constantly trying to force him to see Jackie's perspective, which he would easily go along with, also manipulating him and digging into his pain.
But are you putting into consideration maybe the woman who you thought you were going to marry's feelings?
100%.
And why she's not here?
100%.
And when she was done with him, she and Nick were like, oh, time to move on.
I think it's time to change some gears right now. Guys, we're going to get back to celebrating the...
Yeah, Vanessa's whole fake feminism thing where she's always siding with the woman, it's really alarming. And it makes you think, like, what the hell does Nick have to go through at home with her? But speaking of Nick, by the way, I like that he was the voice of reason.
When you do something like this and you put yourself on TV and people watch, they feel entitled to have an opinion. And that's fair because it's television. So you're going to hear a lot of noise out there. You can hear a lot of talk out there.
And Nick is not the only one who's wise, because Madonna has a couple of words about that. I mean, no one knows better than Madonna what it's like to live in the public eye for like over 4 decades. So she has a couple of words about that.
I do believe I've hit my proverbial wall. This time, this moment, this remembrance of things past, this being shamed, this being blamed, this aching desire to not care and longing for safety, this mouth that wants to be kissed, feeling so broken. Thank God that I've woken But damn it, I've hit my proverbial wall. Haven't we all?
So in conclusion, you guys, the best thing to do if you find yourself stuck in this approval addiction cycle is to scratch at that surface and really get to the bottom of what it's about, which is actually about seeking love for your authentic self. And the best way to practice authenticity and self-care is to start listening to your body, to your gut. What is it that you actually want? And how do certain people make you feel or not make you feel? And another one is to come see me in Hollywood in June. And I want to leave it with Irina, because even though she takes the most shit, she said a couple of very interesting words in one of the interviews that she did after the reunion.
It hurt, and I felt like what made me sad is I feel like people wanted to see that. People wanted to see me hurt and laughed at, and same with everybody else. I weirdly felt a lot of peace because I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, and I know I keep saying this, but this is just TV, dude.
No, you must go to bed. You naughty little candle. Just burned my finger a little bit. Here's the good news. Tomorrow's another day, and I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel differently. Start all over again.